Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter. I'm in the office today because we get to take a look at the coolest new knives that have hit our shelves in the last week. Let's check them out. Alright, so I'm going to start with probably the biggest news yet. This is a humble Swiss Army knife, but this is probably one of the most, or at least by me and several people I know, one of the most anticipated knives of the year. This is the new Farmer X model, which the Farmer, you guys know and love it. It's a great choice for taking outdoors, going camping, that sort of thing. The Farmer X adds a pair of scissors. So the traditional Farmer tool set, you've got your main blade, a nice awl here that has a nice crisp edge here. You can use that for scraping or piercing holes in things. You've also got the standard Swiss Army cap lifter and can opener, each with their own screwdriver bits there at the top. And of course, being the Farmer, you've got a really nice wood saw. Their wood saw is extremely effective. And now you've got a pair of scissors to go along with it. Let me make sure I open it up from the right side. So it's really cool. We saw this earlier with the Pioneer X, which is basically this knife right here without the wood saw. It's a really nice addition. I'm glad they're rolling it out to more models than just the Pioneer. In fact, when they announced the Pioneer X right away, my first thought was, man, they should have done that in the Farmer, or I hope they do it on the Farmer. It's here, it's very nice. Silver Alox handles, that's an aluminum construction. So the pivots, because they're anchored in there instead of the red Celador, tend to be a little bit stronger. Again, great for going outdoors when you're gonna maybe thrash on your tools a little bit harder. Not that you're gonna thrash on a little pocket knife, but it might stand up, or it might be subject to a little bit more abuse. Price is 60 bucks. You've got that Swiss fit and finish that you know and love. And my only real concern, which is not a concern now that I've actually held it, I was worried it might get too thick by adding that extra layer for the pair of scissors, but I think any thicker than this, it might start to get a little too thick for me, but I think it still does a nice job, even if it doesn't lay quite as flat as the standard Farmer. But that's the price you pay to have that nice set of scissors, which is going to be great for the smaller detail cuts, more precision than you might be able to get with the main blade. A really nice addition to this knife. I got a few more pocket knives, or another one here with a nice upgrade. We've got a new version of the Endela finally, which is the mid-size knife from Spyderco in between the Delica and the Endura. We've got about a 3.4 inch blade, and this is the new officially licensed Emerson Wave version coming in at about 96 bucks right now. I'm really excited that we're starting to see more versions of the Endela, because at least for me, the Endela seems like the perfect size in that lineup. The Delica and the Endura designs, of course, go back a lot of years at this point, and their sizes were kind of determined at that point. But in terms of like the modern day knife scene, this sort of 3.25 to 3.5 inch blade length has seemed to become kind of the standard, or like that's the knife size to be, basically. So this knife really fits in right with the fits in more with the times right now, I think, than the Delica and the Endura. Not to say that those are, you know, not with the times, but you know what I mean. You get what I'm putting down. Specs are very similar to the base model in terms of materials, at least. We've got VG10 stainless steel, only with a stout flat grind, kind of a saber grind, as opposed to a full flat. We've got bidirectional FRN with this nice blue-gray coloration going on, so it's a little bit different than your standard black, which I always appreciate too. I see a ton of black knives day to day, believe me. So it's nice to see something that is a little bit different, but it's still not a it's still a very subdued color in a way. It's not a super shouty or super obnoxious color. And of course, you've got that great traction forward and backwards too. You got a 4-position pocket clip, so you can carry it tip up, tip down, left or right. Open it ambidextrously with that thumb hole, ambidextrous lock back as well. But of course, that Emerson Wave makes this even faster on the draw, because as you pull it out of your pocket, you can angle it so that hook catches on the hem, rotates the blade open as you draw it, and it's ready to go right away. We've seen this with the Delica and the Endura. We got it now on the Endela, and keep the new variants of the Endela coming, Spyderco. I'm really liking this. All right, this next one you may have seen a couple of weeks ago. We've got more of them in now. It's the new black and white variant of the Benchmade Mini Bugout, sort of the Stormtrooper look, but you know, don't call it a Stormtrooper. Price on this comes in at $136, and this is, of course, the smaller version of the standard Bugout. The blade comes in under 3 inches, about 2.8. So it's got a good margin of error. If you live in any sort of knife restrictive locales, I know I have in the past that have had a 3-inch blade length limit. This would have been a great option for me when I was living there. But honestly, even if you don't, it's just a good, solid, small-sized EDC. It's definitely got enough blade length to get you through most day-to-day tasks. S30V steel, we got a nice black coating on this one, black DLC coating. The handles themselves are Grivery, white in this case, and they've kept all the contrasting hardware, or all the hardware, a contrasting black. Both the lock bar, the standoffs, everything, you name it. I'm glad they did that too. I'm glad they didn't cheap out and put some silver screws on there. It really creates a striking look. These things are even lighter than the original Bugout, which was known for being a great ultralight EDC. I think at about 1.8 ounces. This knife right here, 1.5 ounces, which may not sound like that much of a difference, and honestly, you might not actually feel that much of a difference, but it is something like I think I did the math the other day, and it was like a 14% difference. It's pretty impressive considering you still have all the internals to deal with, and the size and weight of those probably didn't change too much. Speaking of internals, the ambidextrous axis lock there is made of titanium, and I know a few people have commented in the past that I wonder how that durability is going to hold up. I should say that it is DLC coated, so you have a harder coating on the surface of the titanium, and we've not really heard of too many people wearing out their Bugouts over the years, so I'm not too worried about that personally. If you don't like that look, or if you want a satin blade, we also have the orange version as well, which did come out a little bit earlier this year, but I actually didn't get a chance to show you guys because I think most of our batch went to filling our pre-orders on these, so I wasn't able to show it in this video. But we've got more of those now as well. These are a little bit cheaper too, come in at $119. Satin S30V blade, but like a lot of, not all, but like a lot of Benchmade's satin finished blades, there seems to be like a little bit of a hint of a stonewash under there, which I think is quite nice. I like that. And then you've got orange Grivery, orange accents on the backs, or the barrel spacers and the thumb stud, and black everywhere else. You got that mini deep carry pocket clip. It's really nice. Now another word about the size real quick. It's about a 3.5 finger grip for me. And what's nice is they've scooped it out fairly gently here at the front, so you can get fairly close behind the edge. You don't have a big finger guard or anything pushing your hand too far back away from the edge. It's nice for control, and they're really able to maximize the amount of handle length you get in that small size, which they've actually sized to fit within an Altoids tin, which a lot of DIYers out there like to build pocket survival kits, and so they can actually fit this knife in there as a backup blade for that pocket survival kit. I think that's really a nice nod to the original mission of the Bugout, which was sort of designed for ultralight hikers, and it's just a cool little consideration that they've baked into this design. I got another new Benchmade here. This is the mid-size Presidio, the mini Presidio 2. It's a mini, but it's kind of a mid-size design. The full-size Presidio has about a 4-inch blade. This one comes in about 3.2 and is priced at $136. Now, where this differs from the earlier Presidios is in the handle material. They're no longer aluminum. You've got Benchmade's new CF Elite material, which is sort of a carbon fiber reinforced nylon, which I really like. It seems a little bit blacker here than in some of the other knives I've seen them use this material on, but it is kind of a really dark graphite, and you get a little bit of a hint of kind of some stuff going on under the surface that, again, is really subtle. From a distance, it does look like a black knife, though. And in fact, this entire knife is pretty blacked out. We've got a Cerakote blade, S30V again. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. And what I really like about both sizes of the Presidio is the blade shape. It's a simple drop point. You've got a high flat grind with a nice swedge. It's going to create a nice cutting profile with that blade shape that can really press into just about any application. The liners are black, all the hardware is black. The only real reflection comes from the edge itself and maybe that butterfly logo there on the front, which is going to make it a good tactical option, tactical backup belt folder, something like that, in addition to just being a hard-working utility knife. And I really think they are hard-working. That CF Elite material is stronger than something like Grivery, but still lighter as well, and it's just a solid piece. Now, if you don't care about the blade being blacked out, there are satin versions of this available, but they're not new right now. We've had those a little bit already. This black one is new. But the satin version of the Mini comes in about $131 or just under $132. So you can save a few bucks that way if you don't care about that black coating. All right, one more Benchmade. This is an automatic. This is the Mediator. Comes with an S90V blade and is priced at $250.75 right now. It is a Benchmade, so it is made in the USA. It's also an auto, which means it's also made in the USA. Really cool blade steel here. You've got a ton of edge retention going on with this really stout kind of reverse tanto profile. You might want to call it that. It's got kind of a straight clip here on it with a good amount of belly. I think it's going to be a pretty sturdy point because the grind is not too high. You do get a nice swedge back here, which should give you sort of an octagonal shape as you're cutting through things, but they let it kind of terminate out here at the tip so that the tip strength is still nice and stout. You've got some milled black G10 handles, and it's a smaller design. Like I said, only about 3.3 inches of length, so it's going to be a very pocketable and very EDC friendly automatic. You've got a safety here on the front. Push it forward and it is safe. Pull it back and the push button is ready to fire. There's no red indicator there though, so you just have to get used to the knife. And the action, I found it to be quite good indeed. Mini deep carry pocket clip here as well, and it is reversible. Although being a push button on the right side is maybe a little less friendly for lefties than some of the axis lock stuff, but still is a really good option with some really, really great steel. Now let's bring the pricing back down into the very affordable range. We've got a new Gerber design. This is the Ayako flipper. I say flipper, but it's actually a front flipper. You can see right there, you've got the tab sticking up and it's kind of a slow roll flipper. It's not a snappy action. And even though there is a cutout in the blade, you're not really going to be able to open that one-handed with your thumb. But as you saw right there, you can open it two-handed by hooking your fingernail into that cutout right there. But normally you're just going to want to open it one-handed like so. You've got kind of that Japanese or Eastern-inspired Higo no Kami style of action, but you get a frame lock behind it. Nice stainless steel handles here with a silver aluminum or silver anodized finish. We've also got a sort of a flat green or sage green color as well. In keeping with the Eastern tradition, we've got a tanto profile here, and it actually is more akin to an actual Eastern tanto as opposed to the Americanized or Western tanto, which has a more definitive point right here. You do actually see the belly come right through that, what would normally be a point on a Western tanto. Steel is 7CR17 MOV, kind of a middle of the road budget stainless steel. But again, price, I don't know if I mentioned this, comes in about 28 bucks, so it's not too bad. We've got a black coating on here. I think it's titanium nitride, so it's going to protect the blade quite well. Tip down pocket clip, right side. It's just a cool, stylish little budget piece that is a little bit different than the other stuff out there, so I think it's going to be very cool. But if you want something more premium, and believe me, I do understand, we've got some new Hinderers, the 3-inch version of the XM-18, non-flipper variant. We've got no flipper to open this, just the thumb studs right here. Prices on these are $425. We've got black G10 in addition to a couple other colors, but we still, despite the lack of a flipper, we still get the tri-way pivot system installed. So right out of the box, it has ball bearings in the pivot, and in the box it comes with some other hardware if you want to change the feel of the deployment. But if you're happy with the tri-way, you can still pop that blade open really nicely, just as good as if you had a flipper, just by popping it with your thumb. And I'm not super good at this, but Seth Vietti, our Instagram guy, was able to do the middle finger flick. Not too bad. The detent is dialed in just right. The friction from the pivot is virtually non-existent, so it flicks out very nicely. We've got 20 CV steel on that blade with a nice stone-washed finish, which is going to look good as you use it. Now, if you want to make sure you're under that 3-inch length, I did measure this with my ruler, measuring it from the tip back to the leading edge of the scale, and it was just a hair over that 3-inch mark, so take that under advisement if you're looking at this knife. I would love to carry it. I think it's a phenomenal piece. You've got his traditional frame lock on the back with that over travel arrestor right underneath the pocket clip there, which you can swap around for tip up carry if you prefer. Really cool piece, classic design, now just a little bit different without that flipper. Very cool. Now if you're looking for a premium flashlight to go with your premium knife, I've got some new options here from Mechforce. This is the Mech Torch EDC flashlight. And what's nice about these, this one right here I have is the more expensive one, but what's nice about them is you get sort of a look of a custom flashlight, which can run several hundreds of dollars, in, even past the $1,000 mark and beyond. You get some really expensive stuff out there. You can get something that kind of gets that kind of style for a lot less money. The standard stonewashed titanium version starts at $200. This one right here, which is sort of a blurple anodized titanium, you get the blue and purple accents as you move it around, comes in at $260. Actually, we've got a cheaper option than the titanium as well. You've got copper, which comes in at $190, and of course, copper's all the rage right now for its antimicrobial properties. Plus, it always looks cool as it patinas and kind of develops its own character as you use it. This takes an 18350 battery, and the maximum lumens on this go up to 1300. So really bright for what you're getting, and really stylish too. It's definitely going to be just the thing for those pocket dumps next to your really expensive knives. They're just really, really cool. All right, next up we've got a couple of pretty cool Bokers. The first is their 2020 annual collector's knife. This is the 1906 folding knife. Comes in at $434.25 right now. What you get with this is sort of a lockback version of a single blade trapper, or at least that's the closest slip joint pattern I think this resembles. And this is a Solingen, Germany made Boker. This is not one of their Argentinian or Chinese imported knives. The steel, however, is made in the USA. This is actually Chad Nichols Damascus, their scrambled Damascus pattern. You got a nice hollow grind going on here. Keeps the edge pretty darn thin there, actually. I like the way they've done that. The handles also look fantastic. You've got curly birch, really nice figuring going on. You got some of those cool little voids in there that, they're not, they are filled in, but some of that character from the wood is just unmistakable, and I really think they've done a fantastic job with this knife. We've also got some other limited editions. This is just one of the Castleberg series from Boker. And what's special about this is the handle material here is actually wood that was salvaged from a nearby castle to the Boker factory, the Castleberg, the namesake. They're in the process of kind of restoring some of that site. So in order to preserve the wood that was taken out, you see it on a few of these knives right here. This is the Barlow Prime from the Castleberg. Comes in at about $157 right now. I think it's a really cool way to preserve history. It's sort of it's oak, the actual material is, and it just looks really cool. The blades are quite nice too. We've got 01 tool steel here, which I don't think you see too often from Boker. So that's really cool. And it's got a nice acid washed finish going on. Just a very classy piece. It's traditional, but it is something a little bit different, and several other patterns to choose from as well, in addition to this kind of Barlow interpretation right here. All right, let's get to some fixed blades. We've got some new versions of the LT Wright Camp Muck in stock right now. You guys who watch this channel, if you've ever heard the word Nessmuck before, you know I always have to say that I love a Nessmuck, and I love LT Wright's interpretation of the pattern because it is just an extremely graceful but still very usable shape. Prices on these start at about $148 right now, and this version right here features natural micarta and a twist handle. As you can see, we've got kind of these grooves cut into the sides of the handle. They're fairly shallow, so they don't dig in very much, but they do give you a little bit of extra grip, and then the spine and the underside of the knife are left smooth. So even though you might think it does, it actually doesn't really create hot spots. It actually gives you a little bit more traction, but it still feels nice and gentle in the hand. Plus it looks really cool on top of that as well. If you'd rather not have that though, we do have some standard handle, some smooth handled versions. I think in red linen micarta right now for the same price. And for a few bucks more, we've got green micarta with orange liners, which is another really cool look. And the price on that is just a little bit more, about $168 right now. Blade steel is A2. We've got a full flat grind. Just a classic outdoorsy choice in terms of the steel and the pattern. I really, really like them. Nice sheath goes along with it. It's a right-handed sheath from JRE Industries, kind of a standard leather. This is not his typical square bottom sheath. You do have a more traditional shape going on here, and just a traditional belt loop here on the back. Being an LT Wright, of course, if you're not familiar with the stuff they do, made right here in America, awesome warranty, all built by hand, except for maybe a few like heat treating processes and stuff like that. Nice crisp spine there for striking a fire steel or scraping. great hunting knife if, coming up this season. If you're looking to get out there, this is going to be a great option. Or just a great camp knife, really good in the kitchen. It's a Nessmuck. You know you want it. I know I want it. Buy it, so I can't. We've also got a few new knives from their Genesis family, or the broader Genesis family. We've got a new version of the Next Gen here, also with a full flat ground A2 blade. This one comes with Python micarta handles and orange liners and comes in at about $170 right now. It is a bit of an upgrade over the standard Next Gens, which start about $135. Python, of course, is a little bit of an upcharge, and liners are an upcharge as well. But the Next Gen is one of those just great EDC fixed blades that also make a great companion fixed blade to any larger knife you're going to take in the outdoors. Blade length is about 3.3 inches. Nice subtle handle here, very simple shape, so a lot of different hand sizes are going to be able to fit it. Whether you're like a big dude like me or more like a small framed female who has smaller hands, everything in between, this is a really good option for them. Handles, of course, are shaped by hand. You've got no hot spots to speak of. Nice thumb scallops here at the front so you can pinch up on it, do some of the different grips, any of that sort of thing. Really nice. Same type of features overall. You've got that crisp spine. You've got a JRE Industries sheath with his flat bottom style here, which gives you a couple extra rivets to do some lashing if you need to. We've also got, in Python micarta, only lacking orange liners on this particular one, a new batch of Gen 5s, which is the bigger brother to the original Genesis. Blade here comes in just over 5 inches long, A2 steel again, although we've got a Scandi grind on this particular one. I can say the same things about this handle as the Next Gen. You've got that neutral shape, so all kinds of different hand sizes are going to be able to use it. Bit of a finger guard there, you got your thumb scallops, but you've got more length for doing thicker things like batoning through smaller logs and just, cutting through anything really. It's a knife, you can cut through a lot of things. But that Scandi grind, of course, is going to be really good for wood carving. And the way they do their Scandis, again, if you're not familiar with LT Wright stuff, they put a really high polish on their Genesis family of Scandi knives. So you've got a really, really keen edge down there right at the edge itself. You're going to be able to cut through all kinds of stuff. Price on this one comes in about $255, which is a little bit more expensive, again, than the standard version. That Python is a bit of an upgrade. Standard versions are $240 with just your more simple micarta handles if you'd rather go that direction. And of course, JRE Industries sheath, and this is their full featured bushcraft sheath. It's got that square bottom. You've got a fire steel loop here at the side, as well as a dangler attached by a D-ring to the belt loop there, so you can carry it a little bit lower. Useful for getting it out from under a heavier winter coat or like a hip belt on a backpack. Or you can tuck that back, thread your belt through there. You can even take this off if you wanted to. All right, we've got a few new Condors now, and the first is a stainless version of the Iron Path knife, which of course previously was available with carbon steel, 1075 I believe. Now you can get it in this 420 stainless for about 90 bucks. At its thickest point back here, it's about 0.2 inches, so just a little bit thicker than 3/16 of an inch. I think that's like 0.1875, so more or less 3/16, just a hair over. And you've got a convex grind going on. Is that? Yeah, it feels like a convex grind with a fairly thick secondary edge. And the reason they keep it thick like that is this is a chopper. It may not look quite like it because of that handle design, but you actually get a good amount of retention here at the back. When I was swinging it here in the studio, it definitely felt very secure. You've got a little bit of a weight forward design. In fact, it kind of seems like a small version of almost a bolo machete, which is a great survival machete, which if you haven't seen the video we did on survival machetes a couple of weeks ago, you should check it out. I think there's some pretty cool information in that video, if I do say so myself. Blade length there is about 10 inches, just under I should say. So you've got plenty of length both for that chopping, splitting larger pieces of wood, full tang design, hardwood handles, and really comfortably done, I must say. Has a good or a subtle swell here, but enough height there that it really does lock in quite nicely. And as I said, you've got enough retention there due to that hook there at the back. It's not a super aggressive hook, but it's shaped really well for holding on to the knife. And of course, being a Condor, you may expect a high quality leather sheath. And indeed, you're gonna get that here. Nice black leather, nice and thick, good welt along the side, and a swiveling belt loop. So you can have it on your belt, and if you go to sit down in your camp chair, you can kind of scoot it out of the way, so it's gonna be nice and comfortable and not gonna get in the way too much. All right, next up is another Condor, and this is a Julio Diaz design, who of course is the 710's Customs leather and Kydex sheaths, and this is the bush slicer coming in just over 110 right now. Obviously intended to sort of be a camp cooking knife. You've got 1095 carbon steel rather than Condor's typical 1075, so you get a little bit more edge retention there. Nice, really tall blade with a ton of belly here, and a nice convex grind again. You ought to be able to do some slicing pretty well. You know, I definitely think like really big butchering jobs, especially. You've got a ton of bellied out there to work with. And then of course you've got plenty of height here. You can do some rocking cuts at your camp kitchen as well if you need, when you need to do that. Also has this feature right here, which again, given the mission of the knife, that's actually a sort of a pot hook or a pot latch, where you can kind of get down there and pick up the bail from a cooking vessel over the fire and carry it over to your table or your wherever you're prepping the rest of your food without, you know, scalding your hands too much. So that's really cool too. The handles here are micarta, and again, I think really nicely shaped. It's a good design. You've got just a bit of swell here, nice bit of retention here. Probably do a little bit of light chopping, maybe a little bit of like light meat cleaver or yeah, meat cleaver. Some light cleaver work if you're needing to like kind of, you know, blast through some joints or bone, that sort of thing. Break down some bigger pieces of meat. But again, black micarta, really good shape going on with that handle right there. And of course, being a Condor, you might expect a nice leather sheath, but you'd be wrong in this case. We've actually got a Kydex sheath made by Julio Diaz for these knives, I believe. Definitely designed by him. And they're pretty nicely done. You've got a gray Kydex, and what's cool about this, this belt loop design that they've got going on here is you can wear it either vertically on your belt right there, or horizontally if you prefer a horizontal draw, either crossbody or behind the small of your back. And what you do if you want to carry it that way, you just unsnap these, and you can actually thread that through the back of that belt loop there and take the belt loop here completely off the knife so it doesn't get in the way, and you can carry it in that other fashion if you want, or just carry it regular. It's a nice integration. We've also got a leather loop here on the side for a fire steel, which screws into the rivet holes right there. And it looks like they might be Tech-Lock compatible as well. They look pretty close. You probably will be able to make that work. I have one more Condor, a little bit of a smaller design. This is the Talon, also with 1095 carbon steel, also with a nice convex grind. It's kind of cool we're seeing them, Condor, they've never been known for like stellar fit and finish, but they have been getting better over the years. I'd have no qualms about carrying one myself. And I like to see that they keep kind of pushing their envelope a little bit. You're seeing more convex grinds from them, which I think is really cool. Blade length here, about 4.6. Of course, you've got a pretty prominent drop to the spine and a good bit of recurve there. Certainly would be a good hunting knife, I think, even though for me personally, it seems more, I get more of a tactical vibe from this, but I still think this would be good for outdoors uses. Carving here is going to be a little bit different because you do have that recurve, but especially on the draw or pushing down when you're making feather sticks, recurves tend to work pretty well there. So if you do like to make a lot of feather sticks, I know that's a kind of a skill that's great for passing the time at a campfire. Of course, if you don't have a campfire, those feather sticks will help you get that campfire started. So cool design, micarta handles again. Simpler in this case, kind of flat, but they are tall enough and rounded over enough here on the edges that it also feels quite comfortable. Price on this is about $76.50, and again, we get a Kydex sheath similar to that bush slicer. Only a single strap here for horizontal carry, but you still could do that. You can take this Kydex backer off. There's a little bit of a Kydex, kind of a Z shape here that the leather belt loop attaches to. But you could get rid of that, carry it horizontally, and then of course you do have Tech-Lock compatible holes there if you'd rather use that as your attachment method. All right, one more thing. I've got a new sharpening accessory. It's at least new to us. This is the JRE Industries Strop Bat. And that, again, that's the same JRE Industries that makes the sheaths for the LT Wright knives. We did a video a couple weeks ago on how to properly strop your knife. You can go check that out, and I featured this in there. And I actually haven't got to show it to you here on the new items of the week video yet. So I'm doing that now. Price on these about 35 bucks. These are handmade in the USA, and you've got 4 sides to use to keep your knives razor keen. Now I've got plastic over here to keep the leather from getting dinged up, so don't mind our barcode on that either. That's not actually on the leather there. But once you've done pretty much any other sharpening method, you can pretty much always benefit from a stropping after you do your standard sharpening. And you've got compound preloaded into 3 sides. You start with the black for kind of a medium fine, green gets you to the fine, and the blue in this case gets you to extra fine, and then you can finish things off with just a bare piece of leather. I really like these. The handles are quite comfortable. You can set them on your table there and actually use it sort of as a bench strop, which is quite nice. You can hang it anywhere in your man cave, or for me personally, I keep one of these in my kitchen and I use it instead of a chef's honing steel when I get ready to use my knives. I just do a few licks, usually on the black followed by the green. That's what I typically use, and you're good to go. Let you get yourself a razor sharp knife made in the USA, pretty affordable too, 35 bucks. All right guys, that's all I've got to show you this week in terms of the new knives. Love to hear your feedback down in the comments. Let us know what your favorites were here, what you'd like to see going forward. Meanwhile, if you want to get your hands on any of these, we will leave links in the description. It'll take you over to theknifecenter.com. And make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program while you're over there, because you might as well earn some free money if you're going to be spending some money on a knife anyway. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. I hope you're all staying safe, sane, and sanitary out there. See you next time.